Greetings, YouTube! The doctor is in. Dr. Urias Papers here, coming at you with another commentary on Dungeons and Dragons. And we have the next subclass for the Pugilist base class, and that is the Squared Circle. This is one of my favorites, and it is one of my favorites in the game. It works so well. It is the Pugilist that will specialize in grappling, and it is like a professional wrestler or a UFC grappler. So you could think of this like a Merab Dvalishvili or someone like a Chimaev or a Islam Makhachev. So I'm a big UFC fan. Those are huge UFC grapplers. John Jones is another big grappler. There's a whole list of grapplers. And this one is a grappler specialist. So, again, we get, you're going to start with 3 levels in Pugilist. You're going to get all kind of your base actions and your abilities as a pugilist up to this point. And at 3rd level, you are going to take Squared Circle. So, first thing you get is groundwork. And you get 3 things. Now, the wording on this is easy to follow. With some of the previous subclasses, the wording that they have for the options under each of the abilities is not easy to follow. But this one is, you gain the following benefits. So you get all 3 of these. Compression lock. When you start your turn with 1 or more creatures grappled, you can grapple if you have a free hand. That's all you need. So you can grapple 2 things. When you start your turn with 1 or more creatures grappled, you can deal bludgeoning damage to each creature you have grappled. No action required. The damage equals 1 roll of your fisticuffs die plus your strength modifier. And your strength is going to be your primary stat for this. Of course it is. Constitution will be your next one. And they should be not too far off from each other. So that's when you start. You're going to basically squeeze them and you're going to be doing damage. This is like having them in some kind of super headlock or a choke or something like that. You also get inescapable. When a creature makes a saving throw or ability check against your grapple or shove DC, you can expend a moxie point and give them disadvantage, which means they are either not getting out of it or not getting knocked prone. And then finally, you get stop and drop when you hit a creature with an unarmed strike. And don't use a mastery property as part of the attack. And pugilists don't get masteries anyway, unless they multi-class in another class like fighter. So, but unarmed attacks don't have masteries to begin with. So if you make an unarmed strike and don't use a mastery property as part of that attack, you can use both the grapple and shove options. Now, that sounds kind of like a misnomer, like a misprint. Shove, you would think you're going to move something away from you. You have 2 options under shove. And those are, you can push something away or you can cause it to be prone. So normally with grapplers, you can damage and grapple at the same time. So you can damage them and grab them. And you give them the grappled condition. However, with this one, you can damage them, you can grapple them, and you can knock them prone, which means basically you are doing the mount and you are going to ground and pound at that point. Or you're going to put them in some kind of limb lock or some kind of chokehold. So this is another awesome one that you can put them on the ground and you can grapple them at the same time. Also, at 3rd level, you get muscle mass. Choose the acrobatics or athletics skill. If you lack proficiency with the chosen skill, you gain proficiency in it. You should not have proficiency in one of these. If you already have proficiency in it, you gain expertise. I would suggest that you have athletics and that you gain the expertise in athletics. All right. At 6th level, we get meat shield. While you have a creature grappled, you gain half cover against attacks made by creatures you are not grappling. And half cover is +2 to AC and +2 to dexterity, which is awesome. So anybody that's trying to attack you, you can put the creature you have grappled kind of in front of you, giving you some cover. When a creature you are not grappling misses you with an attack roll, and you can get a redunculous armor class with these guys. So when they miss you with an attack roll, you can take a reaction, expend 1 moxie point to force that creature to make the same attack with a new attack roll against a creature you are grappling. So these are attack rolls. These are not saving throws. So if they're hitting you with a disintegrate, that requires a saving throw. You do get +2 against that because you get +2 to dex saves, but they're not going to miss. That's the problem. They have to miss. However, if they are going to try and hit you with, say, a ray of fire, then that's a different story. They can miss with that. So scorching ray. So that is a thing that happens, and you can force the creature. You can just like shove the creature that you are grappling in front of that, and they will take the damage instead. At level 11, we get heavyweight. When you use the grapple or shove option of your unarmed strike, which you're going to get, you count as being 1 size larger. We're going to talk about a race that you can use with this that makes this even better. So additionally, you don't have to spend extra movement to move a creature grappled by you if the creature is your size or smaller. Essentially, this is the same thing as the grappler feat. If you take the grappler feat early on, you still get a bump to a stat, and you get the grapple and unarmed strike ability at the same time, and you also can move your full movement. So let's take a look at the grappler feat, because that is very pertinent to this. So you increase your strength or dex by 1. When you hit a creature with an unarmed strike as part of an attack action on your turn, you can use both the damage and grapple abilities. The Pugilist gets this pretty early on. Attack advantage. You have advantage on attack rolls against creatures grappled by you. That's what you want. You want that. And you don't have to spend extra movement to move a creature. So you can get this at 4th level. You do get a couple of things off of this that the Pugilist doesn't get, like the ability score increase and the advantage roll. Now, but at 11th level, you're going to get parts. So they kind of took that feat and they took it apart, and they added the parts into either the base Pugilist class, or they added it into the subclasses. So if we look at the Pugilist up here, so at 3rd level, we get the heavy hitter as a Pugilist. So when you hit a creature with an unarmed strike, you can use both the damage and your choice of grapple or shove. So you can use one or the other. The subclass, the squared circle, gets this at 3rd level on top of that. So they can use grapple and shove when they do the... So they get damage, grapple, and shove all at the same time. So this allows you to do damage and grapple. So you're going to get that as a Pugilist no matter what. This part here, the punch and grab, you're getting that no matter what. What you're not getting is this, and you're not going to get this. Eventually, the squared circle Pugilist will get that. So then at 17th level, they get clean finish. When a creature ends its turn grappled by you, you can take a reaction to force it to make a Constitution saving throw against your grappled DC, or have the incapacitated condition, meaning it can't take an action, it can't take a bonus action, it can't take a reaction. If it was concentrating, that's broken, it can't speak, and we'll ignore the surprise part because that really doesn't matter, because initiatives already happened. So it is basically stuck. You're starting to put it to sleep. It has the incapacitated condition until the end of your next turn. If the creature is bloodied and already incapacitated by this feature, its hit points are reduced to 0 instead. So that's the, you're going to squeeze like an anaconda the target, and eventually you're going to put them to sleep. Once you use this feature to reduce a creature to 0 hit points, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest. However, you can keep using it every turn that they are grappled, putting them in incapacitated and keeping them incapacitated, which is nasty. And grappling, and let's go back and let's look at grappling. So grappling is part of an unarmed strike, and the target must succeed on a strength or dexterity saving throw, or it has the grappled condition. The DC for the saving throw or any escape is 8 plus your strength and proficiency bonus. The grapple is possible only if the target is no more than one size larger than you. So that means, and you have to have a free hand. So that means that the pugilist, if they're medium, which most of them are going to be medium, they could grapple and incapacitate a large creature. However, the pugilist, the squared circle pugilist, through heavyweight appears large. Additionally, you don't have to use extra movement, and you count as one size larger. So you appear large, which means you could do this to huge creatures. If you were large, then you would appear huge, and you could do this to gargantuan creatures. So it just goes on and on and on. So now, I promised that I was going to talk about that. So we did talk about the rules with unarmed strike. Here's how this stuff starts. And then grappling after it started talks about you got to have a free hand. Some stat blocks in the game allow creatures to grapple with the tentacle, blah, blah, blah. It can only grapple one creature at a time with that part. So if you got two hands, you get in. It talks about how to end it, which is a strength or acrobatics check. And here is the grapple condition. Your speed is 0. You have disadvantage on attack rolls against any target other than the grappler. And the grappler can drag you, but it's a half movement, except for the pugilist can do this. Or if you are a grappler, you can do this with full movement, which is nasty. And with grappler, you have advantage on attack rolls against the creature you have grappled. You do not get that as a pugilist, and you do not get that for the subclasses. Usually, you only get that with the grappled feat. So I say it's still worth taking the grappled feat at 4th level. All right, what species race do I suggest to take? Of course, the Goliath. Of course, the Goliath. And here's the major reason why. You get large forms. So starting at 5th level, you can change your size to large as a bonus action. And this lasts this lasts for 10 minutes. It lasts for a long time, which means that you can grapple large creatures. If you are a squared circle pugilist that is at least 11th level, you can grapple gargantuan creatures because you become large and you look huge. You count as being huge, and you then can do one size up. So that is that. In addition, you can get any one of these giant ancestries. So they have a base move of 35 feet. One of the things that is missing, or the differences between the pugilist and the monk, is the extra movement. Pugilists don't get extra movement. So you're going to have to kind of make up for that. Goliath has a 35-foot movement. The other thing is you could take frost giants, frost chill, or you could take hill giants, hills tumble. When you hit a large creature or smaller with an attack roll and deal damage, you can just knock it prone. And it doesn't get a save. There's no save for that. It's not part of the shove. It just goes prone. So you could do that automatically no matter what. Frost Chill is going to reduce their speed, and it's going to be doing a little bit of damage. So you can either get some free prones or some free speed reductions and a little bit of extra damage. So this is the class, or the race for me. Now, one thing that you're going to have to deal with, and that is you are grounded. And that's a big deal, especially for monks, the pugilist, a lot of fighters. They do damage to things that they are adjacent to, or they have effects on things that they are adjacent to. And that can be a problem if they can't fly and something is flying. So you have to figure out how to do that. So I would suggest getting a potion of flying as soon as you can, or getting access to a fly spell. And this is where teamwork comes in with your group. You know, making sure that they know I'm going to be the front line, because the pugilist is absolutely a front line, take a lot of damage type of martial class. But you need access for fly. All right, so what grade am I giving the squared circle pugilist? Well, as you can guess, I am giving this an A+, because it is just awesome. It is the grappling specialist. And if he can fly, then it gets even worse. There's so much stuff when you combine this all with all the pugilist abilities. But in addition, if you combine it with some fighter stuff like Battle Master, wow, just forget it. So that makes it awesome. All right, that is the video that I have for everybody today. I appreciate everybody tuning in, and I will catch everybody later.